Hey, welcome everybody to the Life Less Perfect podcast. I'm your host, Shauna G, and I'm super excited today to be talking to Tineke Rensen. I'm sorry, I'm
Very
not
well.
rolling my R's, but anyway, welcome, Tineke. So, just a little bit about Tineke. From a hardcore, successful masculine businesswoman, Tineke was able to transform her life into more of a feminine woman, eventually discovering and owning her gift of being able to energize water after running her business for 33 years. 33 years, that's a transformational number. The water she energizes reaches a coherent state. Everything in nature strives for a coherent state. Very true. A coherent state will influence another non-coherent state in its proximity. For example, the water molecules in your body. When they become coherent, you'll heal. You'll be able to make different decisions for yourself and your business. Now, water has always been a constant factor in Tineke's life and businesses, from conquering wild rivers and waterfalls to teaching people whitewater kayaking in the mountains and how to swim in nature and cold water. Tineke takes her clients with her in the water, cold or warm, and energizes it. People enjoy it depending on their sensitivity. I'm not a huge fan of cold water. Not gonna lie, Tineke. They will feel the shifts in their bodies. After that, a business strategy session with Tineke takes on a different dimension. Super cool. So, making decisions, creating a strategy, or learning new skills from a healed body will give you access to new layers of information. Anything is possible from that state. When you know you have more inside of you or at a plateau in your life or business and love being in the water, reach out to Tineke. Really cool, Tineke. So, we have some awesome things to talk about today. So, say hi to my audience.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for your invite. And yeah, I'm curious where the conversation will take us.
Yeah. Well, let's just start, Tineke, because I know, I love this whole idea of masculine, feminine energies, right?
Mm.
So, and as women, I think it's really been somewhat of an issue for many of us, right? We've been kind of moved into this masculine energy. It's interesting your work with water because I always used to say my own trauma response was like having strapped on this masculine wetsuit, you know, and
Ah,
and it was very much a trauma response because we have to kind of go into that to protect ourselves, to take care of ourselves, especially if we've had some trauma. So please tell me about that journey for you and what that was like for you.
well, I wasn't aware, of course, because you do that automatically, and it's how the system is designed in the world. It is a masculine patriarchal system. So us women, when we want to become more successful, we have to play it by the rules that are there, which are masculine rules. The way you become successful, the way you delegate, the way you speak, and anything really is. Yeah, my mentors, when I started my business, I was 25. I was very young. They were men because there were no female role models.
Mhm.
So I was being taught you have to have focus, you have to work hard, you never give up, all these surviving skills, really. But if everybody does it and everybody becomes successful that way, and if you're being taught that way, and the role models do that, that's how you adapt.
Mm.
And I think, for me it was running my own business, but in the corporate world it's exactly the same. And it's now we're in a beautiful time, especially in my country. We're becoming very aware of this, and I think you too, with your president in Canada, from what I know of him. But maybe I see you look.
We won't get
Uh,
into politics.
no. Okay, but I was not aware I was becoming a masculine woman, because it is just how you become successful as a woman. But what was always there, and that's strange, the imposter syndrome. I've been paddling the craziest rivers. I've been taking so many risks with my sports. I was never afraid, but I was always afraid that people would find out that I was a fraud in doing my businesses. I was always afraid that someone would somehow see that what I was doing and what I was talking about did not make sense at all. And nobody ever did, because it wasn't true.
of course.
But it did cost me a lot of energy, and it wasn't nice. I was always walking on my toes, always looking behind and looking around, like being aware, like ready for the attack, which didn't come, of course. But being ready for the attack, that is also a masculine thing, because
Very
it's
much.
not a war that we play. It's not a competition that we play, but it is the masculine system that we have to adopt. And now I'm teaching women foremost when I see some of them are extremely masculine. It's difficult to poke into that armor because that's their whole existence. They're not aware, and I recognize that because I was the same. But also showing them that it doesn't have to be hard. You can be gentle, you can be soft, you can create, you can work with energy instead of force, you can allow, you can attract. You don't have to work hard if you're at the right time, at the right place all the time, if you listen to your inner guidance. So it's a lot easier, and everybody is made for that, but women especially, because we have the skills to tune into other people, because we need to socialize. That's how we bond. That's how we become more successful, through our networks, through our relationships, through our collaborations. um yeah, so it was a long journey for me figuring this out. And it started with a coach saying, "Hey, Tineke, are you not ignoring your feminine?" And I said, "What is that?" Me? I don't know. The defensive, the first response. I had no idea what the masculine and the feminine was. And then that was a journey. And I started to see it and being played out everywhere. And also seeing how few people are aware of it. Even the he for she men are not aware how it's hidden underneath so many layers of communication and biases that everybody thinks they're normal. So yeah, it's a nice journey.
Beautiful. I love
Thank
that.
you.
There's so many layers in there we could go into. But I just want to kind of get back to that, how as women we've really sort of strayed away from that. So this is sort of the premise of my podcast, and I'm writing a book about the same sort of thing, about how, whether it's trauma, whether it's just certain things that happen in our lives along the way. Like you said, for you, it was mostly male mentors. And I can see that in the business world where, to be successful in business, we would probably more likely, follow a male role or a male model. That makes sense. But just about how the world in general kind of takes us away from going inward and listening to that beautiful, divine feminine energy or wisdom, I would say that's available to all of us, right? If we just kind of can quiet the mind and take a minute and go inward and just be open to listening, because really to be in the feminine is to be open and to be receiving. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. It's gender neutral, feminine or masculine.
totally.
Mm, there's nowadays men become more feminine, um, which is the natural response if women become more masculine. But it's not how nature is designed, supposed to be, and it's not how it's been designed
Exactly.
originally.
So then we have
Yeah.
this flip in polarity, right?
Mm,
This
yeah.
flip in polarity. And so it's no wonder why there are all of these sexless marriages and things going on, because nobody knows who the hell they are anymore, I feel like.
Yeah.
I really just want to, yeah, help us all get in touch with that innate wisdom, I think, that lives inside of us. And like you said, it's really genderless. It's an energy, right? Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, Tineke, how you went from sort of this, being the successful businesswoman and more than in touch with your feminine energy. Was there a moment that happened? I know you said you sort of heard this voice, and that can be a little disconcerting if you're not used to that sort of thing. How did that happen for you?
I had feminine mentors who pointed it out to me. At first, a man who was a very feminine coach,
Mm,
uh, and a woman who also transitioned from being the masculine woman to the feminine woman. She's now being an energy healer.
beautiful.
Uh, yeah, and I cannot say that's when it happened. It was a process. Actually, I have been teaching this to women, and at first I was teaching women how to become more masculine because they wanted to be successful in business. So
Mm.
I was teaching them how to focus, how to create systems, how to strategize more, how to delegate, which are still things I believe are important if you want to become successful, but it can also be done the feminine way. So I was not aware I was contributing to keeping it all the way it is. And I think I've always been interested in spirituality. It
Mhm.
was something I never talked about because in my friends zone, but not in the business zone, because it was being perceived as weird, as strange, as woo-woo, and that's not the case anymore. Yeah, I still encounter people who do, but I don't care for most. So I don't have the imposter syndrome anymore. So I don't really give whatever what people think about what I say. Yeah. So it made me stronger actually. Being the feminine woman made me feel more aligned, made me feel more secure because I was not playing a game anymore. That wasn't mine.
That makes so much sense, because when you think about it, like you said, when we're kind of in this sort of false identity a little bit, it's kind of a house of cards, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
anything can kind of shake up that house of cards that we've built ourselves on. It's very insecure. Yeah,
True.
that makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense to me. And so, yeah, when we become more aligned and speaking our truth fully, right? Like you said, not really giving a flying, about what people think. There's a power in that. There's a stability in that, right? And we become more connected and more aligned with who we truly are, which is more of a balanced state of being, right? Balance between
Mm,
masculine and feminine. That's a
yeah.
really secure place to operate from, for sure. Yeah.
It does feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I also have the ability to bring the spiritual thing very down to earth, energizing water. What, who does that? I mean, I discovered it that I have that capability, but I can explain it scientifically. So it doesn't seem that strange. And to me, it's not woo-woo at all. It was overwhelming, and I did feel insecure about, well, what's going to come and how am I going to do this and what are people going to find? But people are very, very adaptive to my message. Yeah, because we are in this massive shift, growing to more feminine and more in tune with our inner self and inner wisdom.
I love that. So can you tell us a little bit about your work with water? I'm super curious. So I know Veda
Yeah.
Austin's work. I've seen her on a couple of podcasts. Beautiful soul. And I
Mm,
love
yeah.
when we think of water, it's so beautiful and flowy and just moves with life. And when we think about getting into the feminine, that's really what it's about, right? So tell me about your work with water and how it works and how you energize the water, and more importantly, how that can help us in our life and in our businesses.
Yeah. Well, if I hope you're okay. First, I want to go back to the nice and smooth, flowy river. Water
Yeah,
is not always that way.
not always.
Water can be fierce, it can be force, it can be unforgivable, it can kill, it can destroy. When it powers up, when I'm in my car and there was a lot of rain yesterday, and I don't know how it happened, but the floor is wet. So the door has been closed. So how did it get in? It
Yeah.
managed. No.
And anyone who's been, knocked over by a wave knows
Uh-huh.
the power of that water. 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's also the strength and the gentle, like ebb and flow, and like masculine, feminine. It is the balance.
Yes.
Um, so how do I energize water? I did Reiki when I was young. Did Reiki 1, Reiki 2. So I've been using that in my family with my kids to heal them when they broke a leg or something, when they couldn't sleep, to heal myself. But I was never going public with it. And when I was in Mexico about a year ago, just a couple of weeks earlier, And I had been working there when I was young. I was a tour guide in Mexico, in Cancun, tour guiding Dutch people, Dutch young people traveling to Cancun for a 2, 3 week holiday. And I took them, one of the excursions was taking them snorkeling. And a whole beautiful world opened up for me. So colorful, all the animals, all the fish. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever encountered, witnessed, experienced. And it was last year when I went back to that same spot, and I was really looking forward to it. And we went into the water, and I was in shock because the beautiful colors weren't there anymore. There were very few fish, and I could see that the coral was deteriorating. It was dying. And I spoke to the guide who was with us, and he acknowledged he had been there many years. And I said, "Well, how is it possible?" He said, "Because the water is warming up." And I thought, okay. And I was in tears underwater. This interesting thing. And all of a sudden, all this information that I've collected all through my life about water, it all fell into pieces. It was like, hey, if you're underwater when there's a thunderstorm, you really need to make sure you're out, because when the lightning strikes the water, 5 kilometers further, you can still be electrocuted because the water, it has no resistance.
Yeah.
It carries that energy. Electricity is energy. So I thought, okay, if water has no resistance and it carries energy, it should be possible to carry my Reiki energy. And I was, oh, water has a memory. And that's part of Veda Austin's work. It has a mind. It only cannot speak to us in our language. It speaks in resonance. It tries to communicate with us all the time, but we don't. I see this beautiful photo of you in the back. There's water there. It's everywhere. It's within us. We have 70% water molecules. 70% of Earth is covered by water. That's a remarkable coincidence.
Mhm.
So and there was another thing which came to me. It's like nature always has a self-restoring capacity. And I thought, okay, if water has a memory, if it carries energy, if nature has a self-restoring capacity, can I talk to the water? Can I talk to the coral and ask it to self-restore itself and give my energy that information? And I had no idea. I just started doing that. And I was really focused and I had my eyes closed. And at some point, I don't know what happened, but I opened my eyes and I was looking around me, and there were all kinds of fish, so many, and there were hardly any fish before. And I was like, oh, would they feel it? They feel it. And but
Oh.
I got really overwhelmed because it was too big. I was like, me, Tineke from the Netherlands, who am I? This is not true. This is scary. And so I swam away, and then I knocked myself on the shoulder, like, hey, come on, are you the brave woman who conquered waterfalls, who paddled Colorado a couple of times, Colorado River, Grand Canyon, who's been competing in the worst situations in whitewater, in World Cups and Europe Cups, and where people actually have drowned during a competition? And I thought, hey, come on, are you that fearless woman? So I tried it again. I challenged myself, and the same happened. And then I got curious and I tested. I thought, okay, now I swim away. No fish will fall. I wasn't pouring down my energy from my hands. I was just swimming. And I closed my eyes again. And every time the same happened. And so then I always have coaches because I always want to improve and want to move and elevate myself. I like that personal growth. And she said, okay, Tineke, now you're a water healer. I said, no, I can just pour energy in water. She said, no, 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 you're a water healer. Now, how are you now going to do this with people? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm not going to sit with them in a bathtub, or I'm not going to take them to a swimming pool because there's chloride, and believe, because there's too many people, believe. And the next morning I woke up and I thought, hey, you know what? I can buy a little hot tub. So I checked online, and there were plastic ones and they weren't really expensive. So I said to myself, okay, if within 2 days I'm making that money, I'll buy it. And I made it within a day. So I bought the hot tub and I started inviting people to my house, which I would never ever have done. I always had an office, but I had to close that down after COVID. I had to liquidate all my businesses
Mhm.
because of COVID. And also because I was not flexible enough anymore to get up, because nothing worked the masculine way anymore.
Mhm.
Makes sense, huh? Because that
Totally.
was not
Yeah.
my path anymore.
Yeah.
So inviting people to my house, in my garden, in the bathtub, and some strange things started to happen to them. People fell asleep. People who had difficulty sleeping, they were sleeping like babies weeks after still. So I went to Bali and I did a retreat there, a water healing retreat. I had someone actually joined, one participant. I said, I'm going to Bali. Who wants to join? And she said, yes. And we had a call and she said, well, what does it look like? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I'll let you know within a week. I have an itinerary, I have a location. I used to be in tourism, so that's a game for me, it's easy. And yeah, but a friend of mine tagged along, so I did the retreat, and in Bali the same happened. There were a lot of fish. The coral there was still spectacular, also deteriorating. You could see it, but not as bad as in Mexico. And we were, the three of us were holding hands, and the fish came swimming within the circle of our hands. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
incredible. That's just incredible.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I do now. Like said in the introduction, I take people with me in the water. Warm water, I do water healing meditations. The
Mm.
cold water is more a metaphor from how the mind plays games with us.
Mm.
Because you said, I don't like the cold water. You don't need to perceive. Your body does not need to perceive the cold of the water, but it does because our mind believes it's cold.
True.
And the body only perceives what the mind believes. The,
Yes.
the body cannot speak. The body speaks in resonance, same as water. That's why it connects with water and the water molecules in your body. It connects with everything because water is in 99% of the substance and the things on earth. So it's our way of connecting with everything and everybody around us, water. Um,
Water is
so
life, as they say, right?
it's liquid gold,
It is.
yeah, I met Vida Austin a couple of weeks ago when she was touring with her new book in the Netherlands.
Mhm.
And yeah, she actually is, I'm really grateful that I came across her because the technique that she uses on freezing ice in petri dishes in your freezer, that proved to me that my water is energized, because I froze tap water and it looked all murky and all, little tiny specks and stuff. And then I energized my water and I froze that, and it was beautiful with patterns. And there was actually a pen, there was actually a coin. So I knew this is my new business model. I had tried 3, 4 new businesses after COVID and nothing worked.
Mm.
And I love writing about my adventures. I'm a nomad. I travel. I'm in my car now because
Digital
I'm in.
nomad, I love that. So how much beautiful freedom in that. So just going back a little bit, so people who aren't familiar with Veda Austin and her work, can we talk a little bit about what she discovered, just so it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense for people? Yeah.
Yeah, she discovers that water has a creative mind. She discovers that water has a memory, but Masaru Emoto was already someone who discovered that before her, a Japanese guy, but he passed away. She also discovered that it's creative. So by accident, she had water in a petri dish and she had her hand on top. She put it in the freezer, and when she took it out, you could see the pattern of a hand in an X-ray kind of pattern, only the bones.
Wow.
And then she started putting words on paper underneath the petri dish, and she would zoom in, make photos with her iPhone. She would zoom in and she would find that word somehow in an image in that frozen ice. She started playing music, and the water started creating ice patterns of the song, of the title of the music. She started asking it questions and it started to respond. And she discovered it responds in hieroglyphs. She calls it, she has a different name for it, hydroglyphs.
Wow.
Hydroglyphs. Yeah.
Fabulous.
And she tests everything 50 times. It has to show up 50 times and not like out of 400 times. No, 50 times on a row.
Yeah.
And that's her research. I mean, of course, it's not scientific research. Again, like Masaru Emoto, it was nothing of it was true. But you know, there are people who did believe, and now many people know about Masaru Emoto's work, and many people will start to know about Vera Austin's work.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
to speak into Emoto's work a little bit, I'm sure if people just, Google that online, they can see the beautiful images that he photographed when speaking higher consciousness and words of love and compassion and forgiveness and gratitude and all of these things would
Mm.
create these beautiful images. And the opposite of that was also true, that when there were negative, sort of lower vibrational words spoken of hate, and then these really sort of deformed and misshapen images would appear. And I just want people to understand, like you mentioned earlier, as beings that are composed of 70% water, that has to really make us stop and understand how powerful our thoughts are and their effect on our bodies, right? So when you see how that shifts, the just a very simple image in water to something that's beautiful and healthy and thriving, because we're speaking positivity and sort of higher vibration, frequencies, how that can shift. We have to understand what that does in the body. So I know that so much of the work that I do with my clients around healing is about shifting those limiting belief systems.
Yep.
I call them
Yep.
limited BS, that we kind of
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
get away from that.
And it's not enough people can do what you do
Mm,
because it's so important. And I mean, of course, I'm releasing. I don't know what, but I have not been feeling well today. So maybe now it's finally releasing. It was due to a joint collaboration I started yesterday, and it already collapsed in my face today
mm,
because this person had beliefs I don't align with.
yes.
Because there is nothing. Everything is true and nothing is true. And truth is in the middle.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a resonance, right?
Yeah,
And it doesn't come from up here, which is more the masculine energy,
and
right?
it's the mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes from a feeling. I know anything that I've ever that's been successful for me has come from a feeling sense of no,
Mm,
this is right for me in this moment. Yeah.
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 So I really think too, from an astrological perspective, I don't know if you're into astrology, but I just think what's happening now, from a galactic place, if you believe in that sort of thing, it's really a time where we are really meant to be shedding, all those energies that sort of we don't want to take with us into this next beautiful time as we move into the age of Aquarius, which I am really excited about, kind of moving out of this again, heavy mind-based, more Capricorn energy, which is also necessary, right? Again, I don't want to, I'm not here to pit masculine against feminine. If anything, I want to heal those energies and bring them together in this beautiful dance, right? Yeah. So
But masculine, there's the low and the high masculine. The
yeah,
low masculine is overpower, is the competition, and but the high masculine is all about serving and providing uh,
yes,
for the women.
yeah.
So, but you, most most of them only do it at home.
Interesting. And there's the low and
And
the
that's
high of the
yeah,
feminine too. Let's just be real about that as well, right?
feminine. Yeah,
We also have the
it's
wounded
the
feminine.
same. Yeah, exactly.
So tell me
Yeah.
more about your work. So I love that you're a digital nomad and you're just traveling around. So are you finding clients as you go wherever you land, or how is that working for you?
Well, I launched this business actually 3, 4 weeks ago because in the meantime, I've been managing a water sports center. The goal I set in the winter, this winter, was I'm going to live wherever water is because I want to evolve these skills. I want to do more water healing on me. And I assumed that when I was living near the water, I would be able to work on my business, but the position was too demanding, so I wasn't able to. So I just launched my business at Veda's event in the Netherlands. So I
Wow.
had a booth with my flyers and my banner, and my new website was launched. And now I'm more looking for strategic partners who are willing to have me over for an event where I can speak, where I can talk, people who are willing to promote me so I can go over there. I'll be back in Barcelona. I was here just at an event, but I found 3 partners who are so into what I do. And it's so new, but it makes so much sense to everybody who starts to understand what's going on, that they want to have me in their events. So that's what but then we need to have water. Um, I'll be doing more retreats,
I love that you
and I
mentioned
am,
that. I love that you mentioned that, right? Because my partner and I are actually going to be hosting couples retreats starting in January here in Canada, where it's going to be pretty chilly, but boy, we'll have some hot tubs going, that's for sure. So I love that we'll have to talk later about maybe having you come over because
oh yeah,
I mean, we think about like putting these beautiful couples in a hot tub together and doing that work. That just sparks something in me. So really cool.
beautiful. Oh, it sounds amazing. For me, I need to be in nature. So I have a house, but my daughters and I'm divorced in the meantime, and my daughters are grown up. They're 20 and 23. They have their own place. They study. So I have this belief, which I am working on to get rid of that it's too expensive to live near the water. So I'm just traveling with my car, my tent, and see wherever I end up, because being outside really makes me happy, and that really raises my vibration. I'm learning to be able to move the water without moving it with my hands, but bending water, as you could call. What's the name? It's hydrokinesis, I think it's called.
Hydrokinesis.
Um,
Yeah, beautiful.
yeah, yeah. And just 2 days ago, I did my first presentation about water healing, and I included a water healing meditation where I connected with the water molecules of the audience, and I did a guided meditation, and they felt the energy. They saw the shift of their water molecules. Some of them saw them change color, some of them saw them change vibration, some of them felt a peace coming. So I'm still experimenting and testing, but I get more and more confident about this stuff that it works. Today I've been working on a free giveaway, how to energize your own water. I am starting to energize water and send it to people. I tune into their body, to their water molecules, feeling what kind of resonance they need, and I just give that to the water and I ship it to them. So I'm creating all these new products, programs, ways on, yeah, how I can serve people with this energizing water.
Beautiful. I love that
Yeah.
so much. So what kind of advice could you give our audience just to kind of maybe start to play with this a little bit so they could experience it for their own selves, maybe just to see, how can we play with energizing our water, maybe even our drinking water or our
Yeah.
bath
Oh,
water, or
yeah.
what could we do to try to start that?
Always drink from a glass bottle, not a plastic bottle.
Okay.
Yeah. My website is waterhealing.eu. So in 2 days, there will be a free PDF on how to energize your own water. But for example, this is a Polish bottle, and I don't. You can see there's all lines and patterns.
Yeah.
There's a symbol at the bottom,
Mhm.
and this bottle changes the energy of the water. And a friend of mine, she has a device that can measure frequency, and she did measure the frequency of this water is different. But you can also make your own. Blue solar water is very well known, and I explain in that PDF how to do it. So if people can have like 2 more days, hopefully it's on my website and it's
Well,
free.
yeah. Yeah,
Download.
Tineke, when we release the podcast, what we'll do is we'll link that up in the show notes. How's that?
Oh, super. Oh,
Yeah.
that would be beautiful. Yeah. So people can create their own energized water. It's
Beautiful.
not that difficult. You might not feel anything,
Mm,
but over time, slowly, 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 gently, 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 things in your environment or in you or in your body start to shift.
mm.
And when you look back a year later, you can see like, wow, something has happened. And that's the energetic work of water. It's subtle. It's very subtle. And energy work is very subtle. And
It is
not
very
everybody
exciting.
feels it, but I trust.
Mhm. Mhm.
I trust. Yeah.
That's the key right there, right? Being able to trust.
Yeah.
You know, if you understand sort of how the placebo effect works when they're
Mhm.
testing drugs, it's the same thing, right? It's if you believe it works, it's going to.
Yeah. And I included that in my presentation. It is such a wonderful thing, the placebo effect.
Yeah,
In medic world, they sort of, disgrace it a bit, like, oh, it's just a placebo effect. But what a miracle it is that just by thinking different things, you can cure your body.
exactly.
And that's how our body is anatomically designed.
Yeah.
It's designed to heal itself.
Yes. And it can start with something as subtle as placing energy in your water. I mean, people who are familiar with Joe Dispenza's work, you know,
Yeah,
he really is teaching quantum physics, right? And how
yeah.
powerful our belief systems are. So people who kind of poo-poo the placebo effect, it's really powerful. They don't realize that 70% of all drugs, like many of them, the placebo effect is actually stronger than the
Yes,
actual
it is.
than the
Yeah.
actual drug. Yeah. Yeah.
What I love about Joe Dispenza is he does a lot of research, scientific research. Of course, again, it's a method that is not accepted by the being threatened, but he brings it down to earth. He proves his stuff. He makes no false claims, if you ask me. And even an outer body experience, which can be very weird and strange, he somehow can explain it in a logical manner so that people become more receptive to this work. Yeah,
Very true.
I like it. And that's how I see myself too, When it first happened with the water and the energizing, I was overwhelmed. And then I thought, but of course, water has always been in my life. It's always been talking to me. I just never have heard it.
Right?
I'm a swimming teacher. I've been teaching aqua gym. I've been a long distance swimmer. I had a whitewater kayak school. I competed whitewater levels. I'm a scuba diver and I sail. You name it.
Yeah.
It's always been water. Yeah.
Wow. And isn't that a
It
beautiful
was
thing?
just I was too blind for a long time.
You know what?
Yeah.
As they say, all things happen within divine timing. So,
Yeah.
you know, you were just ready. And I think, like you said, it's important too that we're now at a time where the message is able to be received, right? If you would
Yeah.
have tried to talk about this probably even 10 years ago, might not have been received so well,
No,
right?
and I would have started arguing with people or started to convince them because I was not self-secure enough myself. And
Yeah,
now, you don't believe it, you don't believe it.
yeah.
That's
And isn't
okay. I
that
mean,
the beautiful thing to be in this time of our lives? I don't know about you, but our kids are
getting
grown. My
older.
kids are similar ages. They're 22 and 20. And we have this time now to really take all of the wisdom and
Yeah.
skills and tools that we've collected over our lifetimes and start to be more free and more open in how we can share those gifts with the world.
I love it. I really love being older. It's
Right?
so soothing and relaxing, and it's yeah, not trigger so fast anymore. And
Yeah.
yeah, the wisdom, and also the keeping a distance and not getting involved, and being able to help people in a different level, in a different way. Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah, and
love.
it's not so much like you say trying to convince people anymore. I mean, if there's one thing I learned along my way is, yeah, I've given that up. You know, people who want to hear my message will find me, who want my help will find me and ask for that help. I'm not trying to sort of convince people anymore. You know, I've let that go. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Tineke, I want to thank you so much for joining
Oh,
me today. I'd really love to hear about your journey and the work that you do with water. And so again, do you want to just share maybe the quick way people can find you and the work that you're beautiful work that you're doing in the world? Of course, like I said, I'll post them in the show notes, all of your links to your socials and everything, but maybe just a
mhm.
quick way to find you again.
Waterhealing.eu.
Waterhealing.eu. I love
Yeah,
that.
EU is the European .com.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Tineke, for joining us and enjoy your beautiful travels in Spain and Barcelona and I get to see
Yeah.
some of that beautiful gaudy work. Man, it's so gorgeous, that architecture
Oh,
there.
thank you so much. And thank you so much for who you are and what you do and how you, with this platform and this podcast, how you spread the love in the world as well. Thank you so much for doing that and being that.
Thank you. And I'm going to talk to you when we sign off here
Yes.
about doing some retreat work because this is exciting.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it.
Stay well, friend.
You too. Thank you.